Ma'am, can you just help me to pronounce your surname, please? Your last
Shraddha.
name.
Shraddha.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. Thank you. And we're live now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Aditi from the family of Bharatiya Nyaya Shastram, and I welcome you to the new webinar for the topic domestic violence. Today, amongst us, we have a very eminent personality, Madam Asa Chadha, advocate at Delhi High Court. We welcome you wholeheartedly, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you
And
for
we
it.
hope you're doing great.
Yes, yes, I'm doing absolutely well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today and taking out time from your busy schedule.
My pleasure entirely.
It's an honor to have you here, ma'am. And before beginning with the session, I'd like to introduce you all to Madam Asa. Ma'am is a third generation lawyer with an excellent and in depth knowledge and experience of working in various chambers, law firms, and in and around Delhi NCR. Ma'am has qualified in law from Chaudhry Charan Singh University in 2015 after gaining a BCom degree from Delhi University and has done LLM at Kurukshetra University. Ma'am has in-depth knowledge on civil, IPC, matrimonial, family succession acts, etc. We welcome you again, ma'am. And today, yes, ma'am, kindly.
Okay. So, as you just said, we are here to know about the topic domestic violence.
Indeed.
And this term has also needed popularity way back because we, as a society, rather as a world in general, have been suffering from this pandemic in itself, if you ask me, since generations, times immemorial. But recently in the lockdown, this term has again started gaining popularity because we know we all read reports, of a 10-year spike, of so many reported cases. But what
Yes,
we
ma'am.
forget is that these are only the reported scenarios that we get. And
Yes,
why
ma'am.
does it happen? I'll tell you the reason for that as well. When we think of the term domestic violence, just imagine it in front of your eyes. And you will imagine a wife beaten black and blue by her husband. That will be the first and the foremost. And I think in the minds of most of the people, that will be the only image that you have. And then
Indeed.
as the problem of the reported cases being so less. So let's divide it into three parts. A wife being the victim, then violence being committed, which is only physical violence in our heads, and then who's the aggressor? The aggressor is the husband. That is the image of domestic violence in our society. But the law has a very vast definition of it. And what we should do is let's take all these three essential elements one by one. First, who can be a victim? If I ask you or the society in general, you'll say a wife. But that's not the case. When the act we are referring to is Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. So one thing is clear that the victim should and can only be a woman. But can it only be a wife? No. A victim can be any woman who is or has been living in a domestic relationship with the aggressor. So what does it mean? Firstly, needs to be a woman. Secondly, what is or has been? It is whether the woman is at present in a domestic relationship or has been in the past. Why is this classification important? It is important because sometimes what we see is women after they are sick and tired of suffering violence, they just run away, find a safe haven somewhere else, maybe go to their parents' house or some rent a flat elsewhere. In that cases, the aggressor should not feel that just because the violence is not being committed at this moment and the woman is not living with the aggressor at this very moment, then domestic violence is not committed. whether it's present, whether it's past, it is violence. That is a very important point. Then, domestic relationship. What does this mean? It means you are living in the same household, a shared household. You need to be. It can be any woman living with the aggressor in a domestic relationship. It can be mother, it can be sister, it can be daughter. And what kind of daughter? Whether by blood, whether by adoption, whether a stepchild, whether a foster child. All of these, they are also victims of domestic violence. Then another, as we know that this act came into being in 2005, that is the new millennium. So at that time, the courts and the legislature had understood one thing, that the society was developing at a very fast pace. And the age old norms of relationships were not the only thing the society was looking at. So even living partners were brought under the category of a victim in this act. So even if a female live-in partner uh, is abused, that comes in domestic violence. So these are the four elements that we see of a victim. Woman is or has been living with the respondent, shared household, and the relationship that it has. Now, so if to sum it up, I would say the society only treats the wife as a victim, but the law treats any female relative as a victim. And it's not always necessary that you just have to be currently in an abusive relationship. Even you've fled the place, even you've moved to your parents' house to any other place, you are still a victim and you can still avail the benefits of this act. Then, what? Then the second essential that we covered was violence being committed. And what do we think when violence comes to our head? Physical violence. Injuries that can be seen, marks that can be seen, visible marks. But as we all know, scars are not always visible, and that is what the law also understands. The law gives equal importance, if not more, to scars which are invisible, to abuses which cannot be just put into the physical violence category. So again, society and the law is different. Society thinks only physical violence is violence, but law thinks violence can be physical or sexual or emotional or verbal. And according to me, the most important and the most underrated, economic. These are the five types of domestic abuses that this act covers. So now I don't think I need to explain a lot of the physical violence because all of us know it ranges from a basic slap to maybe burning the victim. That is the wide range it covers. And but that's the only form of violence that we recognize is because it leaves scars. The victim can just go to the police or go to their parents or maybe the society and tell them, look, I have scars. I can give you a proof that I have been abused. And that proof is very difficult with the other forms of abuse because uh, they can only be proved with the court and the people being a little considerate and accepting of these forms of violence. Let's come to the second form, and that is sexual abuse. Now, what do we call sexual abuse? So, sexual abuse is any act of a sexual nature which either humiliates the victim or degrades the victim. Or I would say, if you have to make it easy, anything that abuses the dignity of the woman is an abuse of the sexual nature. As simple a definition as is. Now, we as a country, if we see a husband-wife relationship, we do not even recognize marital bed. The debates are on that. So this act is at least one step towards acknowledging that there can be sexual abuse even if you're married. This act gives you some relief, if not sending the husband to jail straight away for, if not recognizing morality. So there is one step towards that issue also. Then another belief that we have is what when we say sexual abuse, we think that the man forced himself on the woman. So again, there was physical force being used. But the law says no. Even if the man manipulated the woman into having sexual relations with him, manipulation, that is emotional manipulation, that is psychological manipulation. Even if the man has coerced the woman into making relationships with him while keeping somebody that the woman was interested in a threat or of endangerment, that is also a sexual abuse. So that way the man did not use his physical power, but played with the mind of the woman. But still it is a sexual abuse because the dignity of the woman was violated.